mental health just got swept under the rug. There weren't a lot of programs. There wasn't a lot of conversations around it. It wasn't freely spoken about. It was almost like taboo. Like if someone's struggling, you hide it. You keep it within the family. You don't let people know what's going on.
Welcome to Fatherhood Voices, Breaking the Toxic Cycle. Dive in as real dads bear all, the mess-ups to make-ups, and every heartfelt moment in between. It's raw, it's real, and it might just change the way you see family.
Welcome to episode 66 of Fatherhood Voices. And here with Alyssa, my daughter, my oldest. And, we were going to go into part 2 of Generational Wealth to do a continuation of last week, but we had a profound experience over the weekend with not only Alyssa, but her younger sister, my youngest daughter. And that was the Sleeping with Sirens and Pierce the Veil concert. And we only thought it was appropriate because it was so emotional to go ahead and dive into the world of mental health and how it impacts not only our youth, but our youth that become young adults. And being at that concert was just a surreal experience. Alyssa, welcome.
Hi, happy to be back and glad to be diving into this topic. I think that it is more appropriate and more important to move into mental health, and then we can move into generational wealth next time, part 2.
Absolutely. But the one cool thing is, we went to this concert in Vegas and we got to do a pool party together. So our first father, daughter, and the sidekick Facebook guy.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, that was a lot of fun.
That was at Encore Beach Club.
Encore Beach Club. I heard that was the best one, so I was really excited. Thank you.
Yes. And Marshmallow Head was there.
Marshmallow Head was not there.
No,
it was a different DJ.
No, Marshmallow.
He would be there that night.
No, he was going to be there, but
I know.
We left once it got crowded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he was on next, but it started getting crowded. So.
Oh, that's okay. It was too many people, but it was fun.
And then I tried to get you to go to Club XS that night, the night before, but you came in later than expected.
I did, but I ended up at Coyote Ugly, which was really fun.
You did. So I did get my groove on at XS and got to tap into my inner child. And
yeah, I know. I have a video where I'm like, the randomest thing. I arrived to Vegas, and here's my dad FaceTiming me just at a club, just living his best life. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah, that was a pretty cool experience. That's, definitely a blast from my past of being in XS and Hakkasan and all that. So being able to just go there. And then we experienced a club not too long ago, just in the last couple of months. We went to Hakkasan.
Oh, we went to Hakkasan. That was fun.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah. That was, tons of fun. And then we did the pool party, and then we did Coyote Ugly.
And then we did Coyote Ugly.
So yeah, that was pretty cool. And then
we did the concert.
Your youngest sister showed up, and we did the concert. And so a lot of exciting things happened over the weekend. But the most profound thing, I think, is, this concert with, is that music considered emo?
Yes, so there is a culture technically that's considered emo, or it's alternative, or it's rock. Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens, they kind of fall into those categories. But if you ask people, they might label it, oh, that's emo music. And it can be used as a way to describe it, but sometimes people use it derogatorily or just in a bad way where they say, oh, that's that emo music. But there's also people who embrace it. Yeah, it is emo music. What about it?
Okay. And, I've gone to, concerts like this because when your sister was younger, I took her to the Vans Warped Tour. So we got to see some of the artists and so forth a long time ago, pre-COVID pandemic and so forth. But then I kind of lost touch with the music for a while. And I mean, your sister was supposed to go to a concert last year, but that didn't pan out the way it was supposed to. So fast forward to this, you created this opportunity for your sister, as a birthday present. And she went out there, and you started a conversation with me before the concert started. You shared something, and I want you to share that because that sparked a series of things. That sparked a deep, intense conversation. It was short, but it was so profound that it brought back a lot of memories. And it made me get up to go record a video, which that video has gone viral now. And it's getting a lot of comments, a lot of traction. So share that because it was an insight that you touched on that it just kind of went over me. In that moment, I was just like, oh, the concert. But you went into a deeper message of what this concert was all about. So you want to share that conversation?
Yes. So So background, I've been to a lot of different concerts and I've been to festivals, but I absolutely love when I go to alternative or a rock concert, when it's something like this. I absolutely love Pierce the Veil, Sleeping with Sirens, and I absolutely love the community that's around it. So one of the things that I was reminded of, because it's been so long, pre-COVID, since I've been to a concert like this, when I was going to the bathroom and making my way through the crowd and coming back, I sat down and I told you, these are some of the nicest people that you will ever meet. The kindest and nicest people. You're walking, they bump into you, they say, I'm sorry. They say, excuse me. Everybody's really nice. You can make friends there. You'll meet people. But really, what I told you was, these are some of the nicest and kindest people that you'll ever meet. Every one of these adults were at one point a misunderstood kid. They were mislabeled, they were judged, they were possibly bullied. But that was a message that I was trying to get across to you, that this crowd is just different. And I was hoping
It was very
that you
different.
would see. I was hoping
Well,
that
you could definitely tell because the way they dress, they express, almost reminded me, and this is this isn't making fun of them, but, I remember like there was a show I used to love called Punky Brewster. And I don't know if you ever watched that show,
Never.
but it was a show where this little girl expressed her personality with very vibrant colors and neons and so forth, or Pippi Longstocking, or even Pippi Longstocking.
I've seen people
How she just expressed herself with just she was different. She was different from everybody else. So being there, people dressed with expression. They dressed however they wanted, and the shirts showcased it with the expressions and the
fishnet stockings, a lot of black,
a lot of black,
a lot of people that have
almost like
tattoos,
goth, but it
piercings.
wasn't goth.
Almost like, yes.
The
some of-
makeup, some of them goth.
Some of them were goth. And then the makeup, it was
the
dark
makeup.
makeup. It was very loud makeup. So they look very different. And I think I had also told you that don't judge, and you're not a judgmental person like that, but I was just kind of saying, don't judge a book by its cover.
Well,
because
I think we're all judgmental in some way. And that's something that deep down inside, we're all judgmental. And it's something we work on. So I will say that I'm not as judgmental as I used to be. But even a reminder every once in a while. So, when I got there, I looked around like, oh, okay, but it didn't click the deeper meaning because it'd been so many years since we were in that scenario where that music really made an impact on you and your sister, and how much of a internal connection you guys had because of just the struggles that you guys were going through. And people have asked like, well, what's this music? Is it punk? Is it emo? Is it rock? And the best way that I could describe it was, it's very raw. It's very uncensored. It talks about, suicide ideation, and it talks about hurt and pain and trauma. And, you had mentioned this song when I was out getting some merch for your sister. And sorry, I was going to get you a shirt. And yeah.
yeah, I know. I literally yesterday, I see my sister and I said, I wish I had that shirt. That's cool. I wish I would have told him, but it's fine.
I was going to get you one. And then the moment the song started, my song.
Oh, you missed your song. I did
I
feel
missed
bad
my
because you
song,
missed
yeah.
the song that you really
Yeah,
wanted to
Kick
see.
Me. I Sleep with Sirens. So, but in that moment, when I kind of lost my train of thought. So I was in line, and well, that's why you didn't get the shirt because the more song came on that I just rushed and, but just being in line when the concert started, and they started with one of the most popular songs, which I thought they wouldn't play to the end, and I kid you not, people started crying. A lot of emotion and pain. I remember this couple in back of me is this young girl, probably like in her maybe early 20s. And she was with her, I'm going to say it was probably her boyfriend. But I was listening as I was in line for this merch. And she says, this song carried me through my darkest times when I was suicidal. And it was like, wow, it was a powerful moment that it brought back a lot of memories of just struggles that we went through in our household. So yeah, powerful that we had that conversation before, and then being able to go and start listening. I started being present and listening to the conversations, and they were very they were fucking intense conversations. Like they weren't the normal, they were like
What you
people.
were hearing?
What I was hearing
Yeah.
was a lot of sadness and trauma that these kids had gone through. Not even kids anymore. They had now, a
They're
lot of them
adults.
have progressed into adults, young adults, but they were sharing their stories and how they made a connection with the music during their dark times. So, yeah.
Well, I want to share actually the text message that I sent to you. So when you were in line, I wasn't sure if you actually had listened to it or not. But should I?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I do want to share this with you. So when you were in line for merch, I sent you this message because I started thinking about it, what I had said to you, and I wanted to add on to that. I really wanted you. I didn't know if it had affected you until I seen that video, until you started talking. We started talking together after the concert. Then I realized how it impacted you. But I really wanted you to be present in the concert and be present with these people because I understand what this music represents. I have a deep connection to it. I have a deep connection to other people who've listened to this music who are considered weird or different or whatever that were mislabeled. But I really wanted you to be totally just immersed in the concert. So I sent this text to you and it said, "My hope for you tonight is that you take away some powerful lessons. That you don't just vibe with the music, but you listen to the words of every song. Every single adult here was at one point a misunderstood kid who went through some shit. We found our tribe together through music. Misunderstood, mislabeled, outcasted. This music isn't sugar-coated, it's real. And it's as raw as it gets. Unafraid to call out the bullshit. The music speaks to our souls when people and words fall short."
No, I did get that, and it hit, and it was powerful, and it was funny because when you asked me how long before I'm done, and I was gonna walk in, and I said okay, like 5 minutes, and then a song came on called "A Father's Trophy." I've heard it, but I've never heard it like where I've heard the words. Holy shit! You want to talk about fatherhood voices and how that song is about a father not being present? Wow! And I walked in when that song was playing, but I didn't grab the full. I could hear some of the lyrics because it was so loud and it just
Everybody was
acoustics
singing
and everything.
along so loud, yeah.
But just going back later, actually going back the next day and reading the lyrics, wow! Now I know why people lost their shit when that song played.
Oh, it was one of the loudest times. The crowd was the loudest, I think, during Sleeping with Sirens during this song. Or it's just like it was the build up to everybody was immersed, and then all of a sudden this song came on and everybody was just screaming. And it's called A Trophy Father's Trophy Son by Sleeping with Sirens.
Yes,
And yes, it is very powerful. Did you see me and my sister scream singing?
I did.
Okay.
I did. And truth be told, I know your youngest sister got a little frustrated because she felt like it wasn't present, but I actually grabbed my camera and I went live on TikTok. And all of a sudden, people started coming on, and people were coming on that tried to get tickets and couldn't. They sold out. And then I started reading these comments as I was filming, and someone saying, "I was going to go to the concert, and my father took my money," or like all these like kids still going through, or teenagers still going through their struggles, and wanted so bad to be there, but for some reason or another, they couldn't get there. And so I was literally like engaging, and people were like so thankful for. Thank you for streaming this, and someone like, I wish I had the money to be there, and thank you. So, and I would look over and I would film you guys and so forth, and I was catching you guys in the moment, but I was also having my own experience also because, I was separated, with your boyfriend next to me, so I wasn't as close to you guys because I was on the end, but I was having a very deep emotional connection at that point with the people on and reading their comments. I wish there was a way to go to TikTok and replay that live, because if you would have read the comments, it would, everything you said and a lot more was just showing up, and the community showed up. Like, I guess people were waiting for somebody to stream it, and I just said, let me just do it, and it even gave me a more profound emotional connection, already deep with you guys and your stories, which your stories, but just to hear other people's stories and how this music, and yeah, it was pretty intense. And that's why I filmed not only Sleeping with Sirens, but Pierce the Veil. Pretty much I filmed the whole concert.
You filmed the whole concert.
Yeah.
And I know that my sister said, I mean, at that point, you could have recorded the whole concert, but we didn't understand. And I would look back at you and I would see, and, you're not really being present, but, it was okay. And then I see you on live and stuff. And I didn't understand. I'm like, okay, well, he's still on live. But then I figured that there must be people on there, but I didn't realize at the time. There has to be people coming on there watching the concert. That has to be the only reason why he's still recording basically the whole thing. But I just didn't realize how deeply it was impacting you, or how people were sharing their stories. But I mean, it was very emotional.
Yeah, there was medicine there. Like my hand was freaking hurting. Okay, so I was literally
I was-
on ride for like 2 hours, but I couldn't stop because there were people interacting that were going through the struggles at this moment, not in the past, but like going through it like in the present. So I almost felt like it was an obligation as a father to give them that gift because they couldn't be there.
When you told me after, I felt bad. Like, I was happy. I enjoyed it. I had so much fun. I think that's like the most fun time that I've had with my youngest sister. And we've been to multiple Sleeping with Sirens concerts because I've always driven her out. We've driven to San Diego. We've been to LA. We've just driven around to see these bands. And that was the most fun. But when I heard that other people, like, their money got taken away or they wanted to go, I just felt so bad. And I just wanted to be able to bring them there because I get it. I understand. Like, when they say, and they've even said it, music saved your life, music saved my life. And I mean, it was a very emotional experience, and it brought up a lot of memories from growing up and in high school when I would listen to these bands, to everything I've gone through, to the present moment. It was a whole thing. And I mean, there were some times where I was crying, and I don't think anybody realized, but I was crying during some of the songs. And I know that there were people around me crying.
There were a lot
There
of
were
people
so
crying.
many people
There
crying.
were a lot of people crying.
There were so many people
It was like
singing,
a bunch of fucking
screaming.
crybabies. Oh, but it was beautiful.
It
It was
was.
beautiful. Boys,
It was
girls,
healing.
like, yes, men, women, parents. Like, it was, yeah. And you know what I noticed is that everybody was in tune. Everybody was engaged. Everybody was singing. Everybody was pouring out their heart and soul. I've never experienced anything like that. And I've been to a lot of different concerts, a lot of different genres, but this was special. This was different. Like, I would go back. I will go back. We will go back.
I want to
Because that's how powerful it was. And if I could do it all again, I would have interviewed some of these kids. I would have. I got to stop calling kids. They're not kids.
They're
young adults. They're young adults. I would have interviewed some of them to capture their stories because there was so much medicine there. There was so much hope and inspiration. You know, these kids that were outcasts, that were, they're not the cool kids. They were bullied. They were frowned upon. This is shit I heard. Okay, this is stuff I heard because I was in the merch line for about an hour. Okay, and I was hearing people talking, and it was the community. It was that community of we're all different, but we come together. You know what it reminded me? It reminded me of EDC music. It reminded me of the rave music. The whole Plur movement, and I always thought the Insomniac events were just a bunch of kids going and getting high with psychedelics and listening to music and watching the lights. But then when I started to understand what Plur was, Plur community of peace, love, unity, and respect, and how a lot of kids gravitated towards the EDM community because if they didn't belong in a tribe or a group, this is the one place that even if they didn't have friends, they could go to a festival or they could go to these once-a-month concerts and they can be accepted no matter how they looked, what their gender was, what their sexual preference was, what their weight was. They can go and express themselves and be free. And that's what he reminded me, just a different type of genre. So same thing. These kids dress how they wanted. They express themselves and they were just free. And you could see the kindness from, you could just see the kindness, and it resonated. You could see that probably some kids that would probably never interact, but there they did because they were all one. It was freaking beautiful. It was beautiful.
If I'm being honest, I wish I would have dressed more. It was so last minute, and between I had to go buy a shirt to wear and an outfit and stuff. But if I'm being honest, I definitely would have been in black fishnecks. It would have been so different. But it would have been my self-expression. And yeah, there are a lot of people that they're just free. They dress however they want to dress. There's no judgment. And that's one of the things right away. I noticed the kindness. I noticed I was reminded of the community that was here. And don't get me wrong, there are assholes everywhere you go, and including there, but you don't see it. The kindness, the community outshines it. It's really not something that's seen. I actually want to share a story. When I went to the bathroom, one of the times, I think it was in between the sets.
One of the 10 times?
I only went 3 times, okay? I was trying to hold my bladder because I did not want to miss anything, even though I did miss some parts. When I went to the bathroom one time by myself, there was a line. So, I had ran it and got in line, and there was this woman behind me, and she had our daughter. She's probably maybe 8, 9, I want to say around there. And so, we're waiting in the bathroom, and we're getting closer, and, I was kind of on my phone, and then my awareness kicked in, and I said, oh, let her go in front of me because I'm sure her daughter has to use a bathroom. It's got to be harder for her to hold it than an adult. So I just told her, feel free to go in front of me. And she was, really appreciative of that. And I just told her, it's harder for kids, to hold the bathroom. So then I started talking with her, and I asked her, is this her first concert? And so what I learned is that this woman and her husband have been bringing their daughter since she was younger. But it was specifically special because not only the concert, but because their daughter was now older and she was more engaged with the concert. And you could just see the excitement on her face. And I just love that her and her mom had matching Pierce the Veil shirts. And it was just such a beautiful moment. And when she told me that her husband had taken her daughter to see Pierce the Veil before, but she didn't really last that long because she was younger. And, I don't know if it was loud or whatever it was, but it was just so beautiful to see because you didn't see any kids. And then, towards the end, I started seeing every once in a while there might
started seeing
I
little
started
kids,
seeing
yeah.
more kids that they were bringing, and I was like, "That's so awesome! I would
Decked
totally
down.
bring,
Yeah, they're
totally
very-
dress up. I will still bring my kids to one of those concerts if that's something that they're into."
I went out, before the concert started, and I just spewed my heart out. My emotions, what I felt, based on a conversation. And as I was walking and filming people in line getting merch and stuff. And it's funny because quite a few people reached out on TikTok. You kind of share, oh, that was me. And then they start sharing their story and so forth. So that was pretty cool. But then as I dived deeper into it, I started thinking about something that came to me the next day is how as parents, we have to pay attention to the music that our kids are listening to, what they're reading and so forth, because there could be signs there. And I remember a couple of years ago when one of your sisters had gotten on social media and stuff, and there's an aunt that's dead to me now, so we're not even going to mention her name, but she had reached out and said, hey, you may want to take a look at so-and-so's account because she's posting songs that are just seem like a little dark. And it didn't really hit me in that moment. Like, it went on and, oh, okay, and then we kind of addressed it. But now knowing, if I would have known back then what I know now, we would have definitely approached it a lot differently, because they were the songs from Sleeping with Sirens and Pierce the Veil and a couple other artists, but they were very dark, a lot of sadness, and so that kind of triggered a memory. And then I started thinking, as parents, we're just like, oh, stop dressing like that. Like, parents, sometimes we're the biggest bullies. We judge our kids and, why can't you be normal? Why can't, we judge them on how they look or how they dress or express themselves or the music they listen to. But there's telltale signs in there, in the music. When someone is gravitating towards these bands and they're gravitating towards this music that's a little bit darker, it's talking about sadness, depression, or breakup, but on an extreme level, parents need to wake up and pay attention and start to come up with some intervention, because some of these songs that these kids were like, I was listening to how these songs helped them through, or they were stuck in a place and that was their way to express themselves because nobody was hearing them. And it's funny because when both of them, Sleeping with Sirens and Pierce the Veil, came on, I love the monologue. I believe it was Sleeping with Sirens or Pierce Veil, but one of them said, "We're a voice for the voiceless." Oh, that hit me in the heart. Like, oh, wow. And then their monologue, the crowd went fucking crazy. Like, they just, because, and then they posted something.
Before
if you
their
can
song.
Yes.
Okay, so what it said is it's part of a song. It says, "Can we create something beautiful and destroy it?" And I loved that they did that because it's part of a song. I am totally blanking on the name of it. But one of the things that I do want to bring up, so Kellen Quinn, he is the lead singer of Sleeping with Sirens, and I absolutely loved his monologue that he took the time, and he tends to do this during his concerts. But what he said, it was so beautiful, and it totally resonated with everyone, where he said, if you're here with your best friend, turn to them and tell them, "I love you." And it was like, like this repeat after me, this affirmation of, "I love you. I'm here for you. You're my ride or die." And then he just said, we need more love in the world. And they really speak to just so much. Like the bands, they look different. The music, it sounds different. You connect with it or you don't. But the meaning underneath it is that bands like this have created such a beautiful community of kids who have struggled, who are now adults, who are currently kids, and it brings a community together because it gives them a voice. It gives them a place, an expression of their emotions when they don't even know how to express them.
We got to figure out a way to get them on the podcast.
I was just thinking I would absolutely love to get Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Sirens and almost put on like our own type of concert and just bring people in and do it for free. All of those kids that want to come see them, and specifically the ones that do you want to see them and you've never been to them? Those ones like your dad took your money, you wanted to go see them. Okay, come out and see them. We're going to get you out here.
I love that.
That's what I would absolutely love to do, is bring those ones that the music's really impacted them and they can't afford to pay for a concert.
Wow. It could be like a pre-concert if they're already at a location, and then do something at
I would love to partner with them. I would love to find a way to reach out to them to get something to be able to make this happen for them, because it's so impactful, and I know that it really impacted me and it impacted so many other people.
Or maybe we can do them through the foundation, Fatherhood Voices Foundation.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's another avenue that we can try to connect.
I would love to do that.
With these kids. The other thing that was really... Well, okay, wait a minute. Before we go any further, what the fuck was El Rey, the song playing? So this Spanish song came on, my Spanish song, my funeral song, El Rey by Vicente Fernandez, and all of a sudden it came on blasting in the concert, and I was so confused. And what was that about? That this Spanish song, what was that about?
All of the members in Pierce the Veil, except for the drummer, are Latino. So, and Vic Fuentes, who is the lead singer of Pierce the Veil, in My Sister's Word, is Mexican as shit. And that's part of like the representation of that culture, is that they had that song playing before. And if you listen to some of their songs, there actually is, I don't know if they're existing Spanish songs, but at least the way that it sounds, they sound like existing Spanish songs. It's you hear the backgrounds, you hear it. It's the culture of the music that's placed into some of their songs. So that's what it was. I kind of figured you'd be like, what is going on?
Okay, what? Hold on. So, yeah, it like totally just hit me from left field, because I'm like, what is going on here? So I thought it was like audio mix-up or something.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
but
it
now
was
it makes
intentional.
sense. Okay, so
Yes.
I didn't know that. Pretty much all the band members from Pierce Veil are Hispanic or Mexican American.
This is a representation for them. And he probably just likes that song. They probably like that song and they want to play.
This episode is sponsored by Aloha Imports, the sprays that make your worst-smelling secrets disappear. Listen, I love Pupil, but I don't love their shoes or their oops, I ate a burrito bathroom breaks. And I really don't love pretending I don't smelly. That's why I keep Aloha Imports products in the house, in my car, honestly, probably in every bag I own. They've got Sweet Feet for foot funk, Shoe Fly for that one pesky fly, Smoke Off for smoke clouds that linger like your last situationship, and Crapper Zapper for the bathroom situation. You know the one. Aloha Imports doesn't cover it up with flowers and lies. They end it, silently, like a tropical ninja with a vendetta. So if you live with roommates, pets, or anyone who eats food and then, processes that food, you need this. Go to alohaimports.com, stock up, and enjoy living in a house that doesn't smell like a regret.
That is so cool. And people just embrace it, just
They do.
roll with all the shit going on right now. And yeah, it was pretty cool. So, wow, we've, spent already quite a bit of time in just, in the experience. Any questions you have that you want to get a perspective from me as, a father? Okay, here's something that I want to talk about is, I started getting a lot of comments on TikTok from parents that said, "Oh my gosh, thank you for being the dad that you are, and thank you for understanding." And
They weren't just parents. I think they were teenagers.
And
They were
teenage-
adults.
and
They were saying your daughters are so lucky to have you.
if
Thank
they
you
only
for
fucking
taking-
knew, if they only fucking knew. But the reality was, I had to confess and say I wasn't always like that. I wasn't always like that, and I had to, basically own my truth and say, it's only just in the last couple of years that I really have started to understand. But truly, until that night on Sunday, is when it truly hit me the most. So, although I appreciated the comments, I just had to speak my truth because I wasn't always that dad. I wasn't the one that I was understanding to this music. It was actually frustrating at times, because it made it felt like, oh, well, you listen, you're just keeping yourself stuck. You need to get over it, because I just came from I was coming from a different energy back then. And
Oh, I want to speak to that. So, when it comes to energy with music and vibration, I had a little bit of a struggle because typically I like to listen to music before a concert. And I just, if those that don't know, I did ayahuasca. So I sat with ayahuasca in December. And what I learned a deeper meaning of vibrations, and music is vibration, and whatever vibration, that you're listening to, that's where it puts your energy. So you want to listen to a higher vibration music. And a lot of that might be spiritual music. It's more positive music. So I had a little bit of a struggle leading up to this because I still had that mentality, what you had said to me, what I had heard, and what I had processed. And I took it as, okay, well, I can't really listen to this music anymore because that's going to put me on a lower vibration. And what I realized is that I was wrong, because when I was there in the moment, there were so many things that I was going through. It was like another spiritual experience where I got to just heal and release and let go. And what I realized is, no, I don't have to stop listening to this music. I understand where I am and where I have been and what I've been through. This is my release. If I want to listen to this to blow off some steam because they're speaking to where I am right now, then I'm going to do it because it's speaking my truth for me. I'm connecting with this music. It's helping me. So that was something that I wanted to speak to, because that's something I struggled with going back to this music, understanding the way that vibrations work now. And I was able to just release that mentality from myself.
it's funny because same way when I came back from my journeys with ayahuasca, I was like, oh, I can't listen to gangster rap anymore and so forth. And so I stayed away from it for a while. And then I just realized, oh, I can still listen to it. I'll just beat you with love.
That's not the same thing.
That's
not the same thing.
It's like, I don't beat you with hatred anymore, but I'd be like, oh, I love you, man. Oh, I love you, without fracturing my wrist.
We're not the same.
Okay. No? Okay.
No, that's different.
Okay.
But I see what
'Cause
you're
I don't
saying.
have a hatred anymore when I listen to gangster music.
Okay.
Well, that's debatable, I guess, considering the recent experience, but we won't go there.
Okay.
So,
I do have a question that I wanted to ask you, and that was, I'm curious to know, was there a time when you were younger where you felt misunderstood? And it's a two-part question, where you felt misunderstood. And the second thing, if this music would have been around, would there have been any point in your life, once or multiple times, where you felt like you would connect with this music before now?
I think I've always felt misunderstood. I think to this day I still feel misunderstood because I'm different from other people. I feel like my mind works differently. And just give one example. The easiest example I can give is, a lot of people are into sports and gambling and so forth. And to me, I'd rather put my energy into how to build a company, how to build a business, how to build on top of myself. And that's different to a lot of people. That doesn't resonate because I hadn't found my tribe. It took a long time for me to find my tribe. So I always felt, especially like within the family, I always kind of felt like the black sheep because I wasn't a real big drinker. I wasn't a gambler. I wasn't all these things. I was more, and I remember it's funny because the joke would always be, I always had my hand in different businesses and starting this and starting that and this. And the joke at family parties was always, okay, so what business are you into this week? Like that was literally the fucking joke of the week. Oh, what are you into in this week? And I didn't realize how much it impacted me. But you know what? Fuck you. Like now I can say fuck you, because that was a form of bullying. Maybe they said it in a way like it was jokingly, but it hurt. It hurt because, yeah, here I was trying to create a better space, a better place. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of failures along the way. And there were a lot more failures than there were wins. But it was along the way just almost like I was being made fun of. So when you said, when did I feel misunderstood? I felt misunderstood all my life. Because I've always been this high achiever. I've always been different. And that music would have connected. So it connects now. I think it connects now because I do feel, although I feel misunderstood depending on the circles I'm in, I've also found my tribes. I've also found my groups, people that are just like me, that are on their spiritual journeys, that are looking to build wealth, that are looking to create generational wealth and so forth. But it took a long time. So I hope that answers your question because that kind of threw me, that came out of left field. But that's something that I struggled with in the past.
Yes, no, it does. I guess the other thing that I would want to know is, what did mental health look like back when you were a teenager or an adolescent growing up? Because we know what it looks like now. There's more awareness, even though some parents are still slow to catch up because they were raised in a different time where you didn't talk about mental health. You didn't talk about those things. And I think that's where the disconnect is. But how did that look different when you were growing up?
Mental health just got swept under the rug. There weren't a lot of programs. There wasn't a lot of conversations around it. It wasn't freely spoken about. It was almost like taboo. Like if someone's struggling, you hide it. You keep it within the family. You don't let people know what's going on. And, then because I was, so toxic in my ego and masculine, to me, mental health was a weakness. It's like, get over that shit already. Like, suck it out. Like, come on.
Yeah, I know. I was raised by you.
And not realizing that in the process, I really damaged you and your sisters. Because I wouldn't allow you guys to go to therapy. I wouldn't allow you guys to, it's almost like you would get punished. You would get punished if you showed weakness. You did get punished if you showed weakness.
I did get punished when I showed weakness. Yeah. I had it the hardest because I was the oldest.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what it looked like. It was non-existent. You just swept it under the rug.
What I also want to know is, from a father's perspective, what would you tell a father who has a child who's misunderstood, who may be connecting to this music? What's something that you would tell them, and what would you tell them to try and make them understand what their child's going through?
Go to a concert with an open mind. Be present. Listen. Read the lyrics. Don't just listen to the song. Sit with the lyrics. Take them in. Take them in by yourself. And then take them in with the music. And look at your children's expressions. And look at the people around you. If that doesn't make an impact, then you're a narcissist motherfucker.
And nothing's ever gonna.
And nothing's ever gonna. And if that doesn't hit you, then go talk to parents that have lost their kids to suicide because of the struggles they went through. And maybe that'll make an impact. maybe that'll finally give you that wake-up call.
That's powerful. It's definitely on the mark.
Whew.
Like,
So should we wrap this one up, because this one is
yes.
pretty intense.
The last thing that I want to speak to is that if parents have children who listen to rock, to punk, to this alternative music, to any type of band like this, make sure that you're checking in with your kids. There is nothing wrong with them being into this type of music, especially because it gives them a community, it gives them a voice. But understand that there's something deeper going on. And don't just say it's the devil's music, or why are you listening to that, or turn that off, because that's not going to help them. Make sure that you're paying attention, because everything's a vibration, and you attract in what you feel, what you seek out. And if you're seeking out some things that are negative, not this music, but negative things, watch what your kids are posting on social media. Watch what they're listening to. Try and understand. Give them the space to be able to talk openly and see how you can support them.
This is only fitting that because this is Fatherhood Voices with the sidekick chick. My oldest, not sidekick chick, but you get what I'm saying. It's only fitting to just read, because we can't play the song because we'll get flagged because of copyrights and so forth. But I just want to read a couple lyrics.
Just part of it.
Part of it from the song. It's called The Father's Trophy. A trophy's father. A trophy father's trophy son. And the intro, Father, Father, tell me where have you been? It's been hell not having you here. I've been missing you so bad. And you don't seem to care. Wow. If that's not the hurt from a center daughter trying to share their emotions or sadness, then I don't know what is. Final thoughts?
You have got to create a safe space for your kids. You have to start trying to understand them. And you may not understand everything, like their life depends on it, because sometimes it does. There are so many people that I met growing up and learning with different people. And I do want to share this, that I don't think a lot of people understand the reason why I studied psychology. And I was so adamant about being in psychology and not a psychiatrist who prescribed medication, because I never wanted to touch that, because I knew what some of the repercussions of just treating symptoms and handing people medication and not actually understanding what it's doing to the person. And I was so tired of watching the symptoms being treated and nobody actually talking about the trauma. Nobody actually trying to help them work through it. They just want to give them a drug to just numb the pain. And I didn't think that that was right. But I grew up watching so many of my peers, so many of my closest friends, so many people I had relationships with go through so much trauma and hardship, and watching their lives at home crumble, whether it was the school pressure, they were outcasted, their home life was chaotic. And I also had friends that self-harmed. And it hit me in my heart, and it made me mad, and it made me feel so many emotions that I was like, I have to help these kids. I have got to go to school. I've got to focus on adolescence. I've got to try to get through to these kids so that they don't go through what I went through or what some of my peers went through. To at least help them navigate through that so that they come out of this. Because there have been suicides in my high school.
And unfortunately, self-harming is not something that we're strangers to. And yeah, go ahead.
Can I share a story?
Absolutely.
Do you have time? Okay. So I recently was reminded about this story. And one of the things that when I was growing up, I was reminded because I seen people wearing bracelets. And the chunky bracelets, they would wear stacks of bracelets. And what I had explained to you, I had shared the story with you, was that with those bracelets, some of them there's a meaning, not all the time, but there's a culture behind that meaning of those bracelets. And a lot of the times, what I found with my peers is that they would wear a bunch of bracelets to cover up scars that were on their wrists. And that was something that was known. It was a culture. And I remember when I was in 8th grade, I almost lost a close friend because I started, I was wearing bracelets, and I had went over to my grandparents' house, and they had a dog, and that dog ended up scratching me on my wrist. And I guess it didn't show well. It didn't look good. And he had seen it, and he was upset, and he started outcasting me. And I didn't understand what I did, what had happened. And it was kind of like that. He told me, you know what you did, and he looked at my wrist, and I had to explain to him, I didn't do that. I didn't hurt myself. This was my grandparents' dog. It was something very innocent, but he understood, because I think he was self-harming too. And he didn't want that for me. So it hurt him and it angered him. And although he didn't understand how to handle that situation, and I've heard a similar story as well from somebody close to me where they've noticed something like that and they've gotten mad. And I think where kids tend to miss the mark, where they want to be there, our parents, is that they get so mad and they outcast them. Specifically with your peers. And that's not what you need. What you need is understanding. What you need is support. That you can be mad and you can feel those emotions, but now provide them the support, especially if you're somebody who has self-harm or is self-harming. Understand that you may not want that for them, but they need you now more than ever.
Wow. And in closing, my closing message would be, parents, pay attention to your kids. Be present. Listen to what's going on around them. And you will see the telltale signs of what their life is like in that moment. Whether there's peace or there's chaos. And those signs could be the difference between life and death. Thank you for joining us on Fatherhood Voices. And until next week.